Hello and welcome. This presentation is an overview of Resolution 2016-60, authorization to proceed executing agreements with Tyler Technologies for the Township's ERP system. For the next 10 minutes, we'll hear from CARFAC, as well as step through the benefits of the system, the pricing, and the next step. So without further ado, let's kick it over to Jerry with CARFAC.
Thanks, Bill. So CARFAC has had the pleasure of working closely with the Township administration on this project over the last 2 years or so, and excited to be moving now to the next phase of the project. When we last presented to the board on November 23rd, and the board gave the authorization to go ahead and negotiate with the selected vendor, Tyler Technologies, as you recall, one of the big questions was whether we do the project or implement the system hosted or as an on-premise solution. And we've worked together closely with the Finance Department and Township Administration and the IT Department, and we're able to determine that indeed the system could be hosted on-premise. And as you recall, that was the lowest cost solution that we presented. Not only the lowest cost solution, but Tyler was the lowest cost vendor. So fortunately that was successful. We're able to work out the details with that and are recommending to proceed along those lines in the contract that's being asked to be approved. And that ties in with the IT infrastructure and networking proposal that the board had approved back in March. So along with replacing a lot of the IT infrastructure, the new software system will be one of the systems that operates in that environment. Also, as you recall, one of the questions that came up back in November was the benefits of doing this system. And there's an enormous number of benefits, which I'll touch on in a minute. But the key thing to recall is that the status quo is not an option. The current system that the township has been running for many years has not been kept up to date. It's another piece of deferred maintenance, like other things we've seen in the township that are now finally being addressed. So the township faces undertaking a major project to update the system, several releases of updates and even one major release that essentially changes the technology, and that would have to be done with the incumbent vendor. So if you go back to the beginning of the project, the question was, if the township's going to be investing all that money with the current vendor, does it make sense to take a look at other vendors, which is what we did. And essentially for the same money, the township can bring in a whole new system that'll provide some of these benefits, and even more so with the vendor that we've selected, will provide even more benefits and also set the township up with what we think is the best solution going forward, hopefully for the next 10 years or so. So just to highlight some of those benefits of doing this project, and again, something has to be done. Probably the most important is having a reliable system that's backed up with full disaster recovery, which is somewhat of a weakness right now. So moving forward, that'll be addressed. The other is integrating the system together so that all the different modules work together. Additional functions that are not part of the current system but are really add-ons or manual things, such as for community development or parks and recreation, can be brought in as well. Be much greater citizen access, so people can enroll for programs, they can submit things to community development through the system, pay by credit card, and that will be more integrated than it is now. And then from a township administrative perspective, things like eliminating duplicate entry, having the entry of transactions occur not by a central department, but more so where that transaction originates. Much greater analysis capabilities, even simple things like the ability to download spreadsheets, but many analytical tools built into the system. So those are just some of the benefits that'll be realized by the township by doing the project. So CARFAC fully endorses this project. It's been our honor and pleasure to work with Township Administration and support the Board of Commissioners in this project. We fully endorse the contract that you're being asked to approve and to proceed with the project as it's defined. And CARFAC, particularly the IT subcommittee of CARFAC, looks forward to continuing to work with the township through the implementation to realize the benefits of the system as it's implemented. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. It has been an honor to work with you, Mark Blair, and the other members of CARFAC on this project as well. And we're just as excited to get to this point. As you touched on, or as Jerry touched on, going back to how we got to where we are today, the process started over 2 years ago where the board gave us authorization to proceed with the overall ERP project. At that time, the board allocated $1 million from a larger tax settlement to fund this project. And I'll get into more detail about that in a moment. But just to refresh our memories on the process that we've gone through for the last 2 years to narrow it down to get us where we are today, is CARFAC and the administration evaluated all of the township's business processes, determined the need for the project. We then did market research on the top ERP vendors, market providers, narrowed it down to our current provider, New World Systems, and then Tyler Technologies. We had each of those three companies come in and provide comprehensive demonstrations with each of the departments. We also talked about pricing and implementation timeframe and philosophy. After going through that process over the last 2 years, we narrowed it down to Tyler. We presented the board with a resolution in November of 2015 asking for permission to proceed in negotiating with Tyler, and that's what we've been doing since November. CARFAC and the administration has negotiated with Tyler to develop these agreements that are part of Resolution 2016-60 and up for consideration tonight. Let's just take a quick second and talk about the benefits of the Tyler ERP system. Jerry touched on this as part of his discussion as well, and we'd just like to emphasize some of the benefits. First of all, Tyler met all of the core scope and objectives that we outlined at the beginning of the project. Tyler participates in a purchase cooperative which satisfies the township's bidding requirements. The annual maintenance pricing is less than what we're paying today, and again, I'll get into that in just a moment. The functionality Tyler offers resolves audit comments in the areas of disaster recovery and capital assets, 24/7, 365 customer and vendor employee self-service portals, fully embedded electronic document storage, full integration with GIS and our new Microsoft Office 365, mobile applications to assist employees who work out in the field, the positive department demonstration and evaluation reviews, positive support reviews coming from current Tyler customers, an evergreen upgrade philosophy that will require the township to stay no more than two versions behind to ensure that this agreement that we're entering into today is a long-term agreement and that the township is always on the front edge of the emerging technology in this area. Tyler University for staff training. So today's staff will be trained during the implementation, and the Tyler University feature will allow all future employees of the township to receive the same level of training to ensure that the technology is being utilized at the highest level. And then finally, the implementation by Project Management Institute certified professionals. This was a very important feature, distinguishing feature offered by Tyler, being that this is such an important project and is going to require a great deal of time, focus, and effort from the township staff. Having certified professionals here assisting us was critical. Now, let's talk about the pricing and the funding for the project. This is one area that has changed dramatically from where we were in November when we initially presented to the board or requested authority to negotiate with Tyler back in November. At that time, and Jerry pointed this out or touched on this during his overview of the project, the township was leaning towards a cloud-based solution. And if you'll recall, Tyler was one of the more expensive ones, both in terms of the implementation, the upfront cost, as well as the ongoing maintenance. With the board's approval of the IT infrastructure project back in March, we now have the IT capabilities to host the data on site. So that has had dramatic changes on where these dollars are. To start, let's look at the one-time upfront costs. As you can see on the screen, the board allocated roughly $1 million back in 2013 for this project. The actual price that is included in the agreement for the one-time or the implementation costs, which include the purchase of the licensing for the software and all of the modules, as well as the professional services for the implementation. You can see that the total pricing is going to come in slightly less than $600,000. So we are well within the $1 million that was allocated by the board back in 2013. Once the implementation of the software is complete, the township will pay an annual maintenance and support fee to Tyler. Going back to our discussions in November, we were talking, or at least leaning towards, a cloud-based solution, which was the more expensive. However, with the Allura IT project, we are now able to host the data on site. So what this means in terms of the annual software maintenance is we are going to end up paying Tyler roughly $48,000 and some change. As compared to what we pay SunGard today, which is $65,000 and change, we're going to see an immediate savings in our annual support fees. To add to that, as we discussed earlier, that status quo is not an option. So even if we don't go with Tyler and we upgraded with SunGard's more current version of their software, the annual support for that software was running up near $100,000 per year plus. So by going with Tyler and hosting it on site, this project now will generate a savings to the general fund on an ongoing basis moving forward. Taking a look at the slide on the screen, you can see that by moving from cloud-based to in-house, the cost for the Tyler ongoing maintenance and support drops significantly, which is why we were recommending the IT and infrastructure project back in March. By doing this, the township will achieve immediate savings under what we're paying SunGard now, and on a comparative basis, if we were to upgrade with SunGard, more significant savings over the long term. All right, so that's the summary, and that's the information that's behind Resolution 2016-60. I'd like to thank the board for your consideration. I'd also like to thank CARFAC, especially the members of the IT working group that have been with us for the last 2+ years to getting us where we are today. I know I speak on behalf of the other departments that we're all extremely excited to get this project going, and we look forward to getting started right away. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. Thank you very much.